And here he is. Here we go. Here is Destro from G.I. Joe Classified Series, the Retro Cardback Edition. The Laird James McCullen, the 15th? 14th. Leader of Mars and Cobra's head armourer. Very pleased to have this in hand. I didn't manage to pick up a mainline G.I. Joe Classified Series release of the original Destro, and this has got some slightly different paint apps that I'm kind of a little bit more appreciative of, but kind of not. We'll talk about that when I get to the more detailed review section after the unboxing bit I'm doing right now. As you can see here, aside from the increased size, the much increased size, it is just a bang on the button, like for a nostalgia head like me, totally evocative. Sending my memory back to those halcyon days in the 80s, prowling the aisles of Toys R Us and buying my G.I. Joe, or what would have been Action Force for me at the time, with the kind of flame burst image on the side here and the figure in the blister pack across on the edge here. Although this image here, I've not double checked it. I'll flash one up quickly of the original over here somewhere on the screen, but I don't believe this is the original Hector Garrido artwork from the original 80s version. It's like a more modern reinterpretation. I think they may have mentioned it on one of the Hasbro Pulse, like Lenny and is it Emily? May have said it on one of the streams. It's kind of fallen out my head, but I mean, it's pose for pose, exactly the same image, but a more modern reinterpretation. I don't remember there being quite as much detail, like in the helmet and stuff. But still, nonetheless, for the nostalgia factor, and in hand, it just feels very, yeah, just like it used to back in the day, sending me back to my childhood. It is very big. I've got my Zaymot box here from that recent pre-order arrival. If I just sort of put that corner to corner, you can see there the overall difference in kind of surface area, certainly of the card back. The depth is about the same, but you can see this extra real estate for displaying the image on there. I don't know whether that'll make a difference to someone if you're minting box or whatever. I suspect if you're minting box going for these, you're probably less interested in the retro card back, but that might be of interest to some. Obviously not much else to show off. I mean, you've got the figure in the blister back here, and then on the back we've got a very old school classic looking data card, Destro, McCullen, James the 14th. It does say there, fictional name. There's a little asterisk on there. Role, enemy weapons supplier. Primary specialty, weapons manufacturer. Secondary specialty, sabotage. Birthplace, unknown. I thought we knew he was born in Scotland. Anyway, Destro is the faceless power behind Mars, the largest manufacturer of state-of-the-art weaponry. Awesome, very, very old school, totally evokes that experience of being a 9-year-old again. Love it. We've got all the different kind of languages here, all the legalese, showing off all the other figures available in the Retro Cardback series in this wave. I know there's been more announced. I've got some other bits and bobs here. That's the importer sticker there. My big shout out to In Demand Toys, who I pre-ordered with. This is import stock that they sent me, so very pleased with that. So yeah, let's get this open, shall we? So I've sliced the tape on the tab there. I'm gonna, this is probably gonna cause some people some pain to see me open this like this. I'm gonna try and do it carefully to protect. Oh no, game over already, folks. Game over already. I was thinking I might try and keep the side images, but nah. So here we go in the blister pack. Slide Destro out there. Oh, paperwork. And just off to the side here, you saw it just kind of fall down there when I slid him out. We've got the Cobra foot stand for him. It's got the Cobra symbol etched in there with the 2 foot pegs. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. Then his briefcase, which looks like it opens on a hinge. Again, we'll have a closer look at that in a minute. Got his laser gun thingamadoodad. Kind of reminiscent of the old, like the Star Wars blaster rifles, the E111 or whatever it was called. Is it E111? Then his little pistol here. Pretty good. And then, of course... Oh, I hate that noise. Then, of course... the figure himself. And there we go. There's Destro out of the package with all his goodies. I'm going to go away now and do some posing up with him, have a bit of playtime, get a bit of in-hand experience, and I'll come back in a couple of days to give him a MoDXtra review and share my thoughts. So I'll be back in video time in 3, 2, 1, And yes, here we are, folks. I am back. When I say I am back for you, it's just been a few moments since you watched me do the unboxing section of this video with the retro card back Destro here. But for me, it's been a couple of days since this guy arrived and I did that unboxing. I've been away, I've had some hands-on man-child playtime with the figure. I've taken some photos, I made my little shorts video, check out my shorts. I've had him posed up and on display. Destro's been mostly hanging out with the rest of the Cobra Central Command. I got my old Cobra Commander figure out. I've not had him out for a little while. Baroness, of course, Storm Shadow, looking to see how he fits in amongst the core Cobra leadership group there. And yeah, I'm ready to share some thoughts. And my first initial, straight out the gate piece of feedback before I get into any of my actual reviewing is that Destro's got a very shiny helmet. Fact. And I have been struggling somewhat to light Destro. So if anyone's got any hints and tips as to how to deal with a shiny helmet, particularly photographing shiny helmets, then drop me a comment down below and let me know your tips. So let's read in anyone who's new around these parts. If this is your first MoDXtra Games and Collectibles review, I follow a very simple structure that I call the 3 A's. The first A, we're going to talk about aesthetic. How does Destro look? Let's talk about the texture. Let's talk about the paint apps. Let's talk about the colours, the detail, the depth, etc., etc. Then on to the second A, which is articulation. How does Destro feel? How does he move? How poseable is he? A very important part of the action figure collecting and owning experience. And then finally, the third A, which is accessories stroke added value. What does or does not come in addition to the figure that is going to enhance our enjoyment and our playtime. So let's not dilly-dally around. Let's get straight into it. And let's talk a little bit about how Destro looks. Hey folks, just very quickly before we go any further, I wanted to say an enormous thank you, a heartfelt, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel in the last couple of months. It feels like it was only yesterday I was asking for a bit of help to get over 100 subscribers so I could have a unique URL. I was like, hey folks, please help me, I want my own URL. And now, as of time of recording this video, I've just broken 400 and I cannot believe it. I'm overwhelmed. I'm even more overwhelmed. I said I was overwhelmed when I broke 300, but it's crazy. It's that you really are making this man-child's dreams come true. I am so excited to have so many of you subscribe, and you're from all over the world. There was a guy commenting from New Zealand the other day. In New Zealand, there's someone in New Zealand watching my videos. It's amazing. So I'm just giddy with excitement about it all, and I just wanted to take a moment to share how grateful I was. You're amazing. Thank you so very much. Keep bringing stuff up in the comments. Keep helping me out when I'm off the mark or I've got things wrong about body books and whatnot. That's the only way I'm going to learn. And thank you all so much for taking the time to give me likes and obviously subscribe to the channel. It's just amazing. You really are the best. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Okay then, I brought Destro a little bit nearer to the camera so that we can have a closer look at the finer detail here on the figure. Let's get started, as I often do, with the head and the face sculpt, because it's something that I notice quite often and is a big part of my modern action figure experience. And I've got to say, G.I. Joe Classified, the standard with regards to the head sculpts, the face sculpts, is always very high. And despite the fact that this is essentially a reprint of an earlier figure, the mainline Destro was number 4 in releases. You can kind of see there how they set their stall out, and while they've developed somewhat, and I'd probably say that that's not quite as comparable to the likes of Spirit or Outback or Stalker that we've seen recently, it's still a damn fine face sculpt. I mean, look at the chin and the lips and the definition around the cheekbones and across the eyebrows there. Loving that. It is a bit of a serious kind of bland looking facial expression, which I have been critical of. I do like to see a bit more of a story being communicated through the facial expression of the figures. But in this particular instance, I'm a bit more forgiving because, well, the dude's got a big old metal helmet He's wearing a big old shiny metal helmet that's clamped on round the neck. So it's a fixed visage, isn't it? It's not like you're going to see him smirking or, growling or gritting his teeth in anger or whatever. So that kind of works. I'm a little bit more forgiving of that, and with the level of detail that we're seeing there, I'm finding it excusable. And to be fair, even though I'm saying it's not selling so much of a story through the facial expression, it is part of the overall story that's being sold through the figure itself as a whole. So it works. And where I might have said with some of the Marvel Legends in the past, oh, what a boring facial expression, it kind of works. And it is a bit bland, but it's that kind of Destro seriousness, so it's right, it's correct, it's there. We can see the paint apps as well. Lovely, nice, detailed, precise paint apps on the eyes. You'll notice, of course, that this one's got the eyebrows on the helmet, which was making it much more cartoon accurate and not necessarily comic book accurate. I quite like them. I mean, I know I've said in the past, my main thing with G.I. Joe was reading the Marvel UK Action Force comics in the 80s. That's what I was a fan of. And I don't recall him having the eyebrows in that. It was just the plain helmet. But I sort of like that added bit of personality. There's a good. Let's turn it that way. You can see the eyebrows a bit better there. I kind of like it, to be fair. I probably shouldn't, but I do. So it is what it is. Nice detail on the ears, and then of course, because it is a helmet, you can see these kind of helmet molding lines and the rivets around the neck and stuff where it's clamped on, which is all lovely. Also, one thing I noticed, the paintwork on the helmet itself is a suitably metallic silver. It doesn't look too plasticky. I don't think the camera under the lights is doing it justice, but in hand, it's a nice silvery, metallic-y silver kind of look and sheen to it. It's not a kind of... they've obviously applied some paint there to give it a little bit more depth and a little bit more kind of real-life texture, which I am appreciative of. Of course, then you can see the detail in the collar. The neck chain is a loose piece, but that's okay. It's not too disruptive, doesn't get in the way. And then you can see the detail in his uniform, the two zippers across the front here, the padded sections. These, of course, on the original mainline release were coloured, and they're all black here, again, to be more reflective of the retro design. Then just a quick peek from the side. You can see his gauntlets are, again, got the same kind of metallic silvery sheen that the helmet does. There is a slight discernible difference between the colour of the piece on the main body and the separate hands, which you wouldn't notice necessarily unless you were really looking for it, which I kind of was. In order to do this review. And then you can see the added detail there, things like his mounted wrist rockets just here painted in red. That actually looks like it's a separate piece that's been moulded and then affixed to the figure, which is curious. Just while I've got him this way, actually, while we're looking at the sides, one aesthetic thing that some collectors may notice is obviously that they are pinned joints. This one here obviously particularly stands out because it cuts into the silver gauntlet and the main body of the arm, so there's this kind of black chasm in there. So if you've been enjoying the pinless joints on some of the more recent G.I. Joe classified releases, then obviously as a remold you're not going to get it with this guy. More details as well as we go further down the figure. We've got the belt, which is a rubber piece across his waistline here. Got a little kind of red symbol thing there. That's different to the original mainline release. Again, there was a lot more red across the central belt there. Speaking of red, though, we've got the red holster on the side here. Lots of detail in there. Got buckles and straps. And then we've got these extra kind of pockets for carrying his bullet magazine and whatever else supplies he's got in this big pouch on the front there, which is, again, adding to the story and adding to the depth and texture of the figure. We've got the classic G.I. Joe classified sort of fabric texture on the trouser legs as well, which is nice. And, of course, in the design, what they've done, I think I've mentioned this before on previous reviews, they've made the knee piece here, knee pads, practical knee pads. So the slight difference in the plastic colours and the blacks there don't stand out too much, but around the knee you can see here these lovely creases and folds, just making it look very realistic and giving it just that nice fine detail touch, making it look like it's he's a guy wearing his pants for reals. Then into the boots. These are in the same grey as the belt in the middle here, again framing the figure up quite nicely, especially with this extra touch of grey in here. Lots of detail again. You can see the straps and the zips and whatnot. And this kind of buckle on the side here, which had a little bit of silver paint added to it, by the way. Nice little piece of detail there from the G.I. Joe Classified folks. Well done on that one, giving it an extra little touch of finer detail, a little bit more, a little bit extra that you don't always get with your Hasbro figures. So always very appreciative of that. So, yeah, aesthetically, Destro is doing the business. He's got, while a more subdued colour palette, I suppose, compared to other figures in the G.I. Joe Classified series range, they're great choices. They work well. They're well balanced. The figure is framed well. Got lovely touches of detail in there to bring it to life and to give the figure some depth. And the finer detail touches are lovely. Like, you know, the paint choices when it comes to the metallic sections of his uniform, even down to putting the little metal buckles on the sides of the boots, is all just spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on for me. He's certainly in line with how we were, nostalgia heads like me would see the figure, either reflecting on what we used to own back in the 80s in the 3.75, or whether it be how we recall him looking in the cartoon or the comic books. Eyebrows aside, of course, for the comic books fans. So, yeah, overall, very happy with the way he looks. He fits in as well. He blends particularly nicely with the colour schemes of the other figures in the kind of Cobra side of the shelf too. So he's working in that respect. So overall, yeah, aesthetically, he gets the thumbs up from me. He's working. He's doing what I want him to do, and he's doing it well. So now let's talk a little bit about his articulation. Now, the articulation sections of my G.I. Joe Classified reviews are getting a bit repetitive now. Destro follows the same model, the same kind of articulation points as most all of the other figures in the line, certainly most all of the other male figures in the line. So, and we already know, anyone who knows will be aware that they are probably, arguably, the finest that Hasbro are putting out there in terms of articulation. He says, I mean, I've never had a Power Ranger in my hands to know, but there we go. So above the shoulders in the head, it's the ball joint and then the hinge. So we've got decent up, decent down, good side to side, although it's tough to get a full Exorcist swivel out of him because of the collar, and then a little bit of tilt in there as well, giving lots of options for where you might want to place his line of sight. One thing I did notice is he does seem to be sort of a bit chin out and forward. Sometimes I have to sort of bring it back so that the hinge is sort of a little bit more straight. I feel like a Scottish laird, would have good posture, you know. Moving down the body into the shoulders, we've got a butterfly joint there on both sides, giving a little bit of hustle, bit of shuffle forward and back. My right-hand side on my Destro is a bit crunchy, both in the butterfly joint and in the shoulder. I don't know if you can see that there. It was a bit crunchy, a little bit Valaverse there, Destro. I might have to get a bit of heat on that. But you can get him up to the standard G.I. Joe Classified T. Then we've got the swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. We've got the double elbow, although it's a little bit restricted by the size of Destro's gun show. And his hands have got a hinge up and down on both sides. No forward and back on Destro, which is kind of interesting. Then into the main body here, we've got the ab crunch forward and back. Lots of nice big range of motion there with Destro. Although if you go too far back, you can see he sort of break his zip snaps. Whoa! And then we've got swivel in the waist as well. And the swivel line there is nicely disguised by the belt across the middle. Although, as you've probably seen, you have to sort of fiddle with it a bit to make it look neat and tidy, but that's okay. Then in the legs here, in the groin, we've got the drop-down joint there, which gives a good range of motion. We can get the full ballet dancer splits, although, as you can see, the holster belt is a bit, goes a bit restrictive, a bit odd there. Not that you'd ever have him in a pose of that nature, but good range of motion. Then we've got the thigh swivel at the top of the thigh there. Again, a bit restricted by this join of the belt to the holster. Good old-fashioned double knee all the way up to the back there. Boot swivel at the top of the boot. And then we've got the forward and back rockers and the side-by-side rockers on the feet, giving Destro the standard but impressive range of articulation we get with G.I. Joe Classified figures. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, really, or add with regards to articulation when it comes to the G.I. Joe Classified series. Destro is the standard format that they have adopted. It is a great format. I think it is the finest that Hasbro are offering, and G.I. Joe Classified are knocking, Black Series and Marvel Legends completely out of the park when it comes to articulation. Watch any of my other G.I. Joe Classified series videos on this channel and you'll hear me be hugely effusive and praising of the work that the G.I. Joe Classified team have been doing with regards to that. And he's highly articulate. It gives you a lot of posable options, especially because he's not got any body armor on or anything, so there's no additional restriction that they've imposed on the figure in that respect. That means that he's, just perfect, just spot on. And when I compare it to, like I say, other Marvel Hasbro lines like Marvel Legends, or equally like my McFarlane DC Multiverse stuff, Classified is just really nailing it. They're just really nailing it. It's spot on. So not much more to add there. I just think if you're looking for a well-articulated figure, you can't go wrong with a G.I. Joe Classified one. And if you like Destro, then, he's doing the business. Again, so another thumbs up on the second day. Well done, Destro. Let's now go to our third A, the accessories and added value, and see whether the thumbs up continue. And it's 3 for 3 for Destro. Right out of the gate then, the first accessory I want to show you is the foot stand. And I really like these in the retro card back line. We've got the Cobra symbol there, the 2 foot pegs. It's just a moulded piece of plastic, but it certainly does the business. I have to confess, I've not been using them. I haven't been using them with Destro, and I haven't been using them with Baroness, mostly because my other figures haven't got them, so it sort of looks a bit out of place, and I've been freestanding all my other mainline figures, and then I didn't really want these two to be on stands in amongst them all. So, hey, Hasbro, G.I. Joe Classified Series team, either release me a pack of these, sell me 10 for a tenner or whatever, quid each, I'll be super happy, and then get my other figures on them, or or they'll just be sitting in a drawer with or be bundles of other unused accessories. It's a nice piece of work. As you can see, it's very it tracks the old fingerprints, the old smooshy fingerprints. Although I have just been eating some chocolate before recording this, which is probably adding to the situation. Foot pegs fit nice and neatly. No issues there. No need to be particularly rough and tumble with it. Nice, neat fit, making him stand all nice and lovely. Hello there. Next on the list, we've got his suitcase here. The mainline version came with the same suitcase, although that was black with the Cobra symbol in red, whereas this is just all one single colour, like a sort of browny grey there. It's a nice touch. I like accessories that go a little bit beyond the usual kind of, got me some blades, got me some shooty pew-pews. So it's a lovely touch here. I do like when they have bits and bobs of this nature in them. This opens up, and then as you can see, the inside's basically got everything Destro could need. He's got stacks of bills, because, he's loaded, selling his weapons all over the world. And then we've got this little kind of Mars computer control laptop-y thing down here. I think, someone let me know in the comments down below, my memory's a bit hazy. Is that a reference to a scene or an aspect of the cartoon series, the Mass Device episodes? Is that what that is? I'm a bit more of a comic book guy than I am a cartoon guy. I mean, my memory's failing me while I'm on camera now, but it's a nice touch. Obviously, some opportunity there with the briefcase to give him some more interesting poses and a little bit more kind of interesting shenanigans to do with the displays. Fits in his hand nicely there like that, although I gotta tell you, it's a bit of a faff to get the handle in between the fingers and the thumb there. I didn't do it on camera, I did it off camera. Maybe I should have done it on camera to demonstrate, but a bit of a faff. But once you got it, once you've figured it out, you're all right there. But yeah, there you go, there it is in hand. Then on to his shooties. We've got the pistol here, little kind of snub pistol-y thing. It's got that, it's less realistic, it's a bit more kind of sci-fi in tone from the sort of earlier designs there. I don't mind it though, it's got a good vibe and it's still very clear what it is. It doesn't feel quite as nerfy as some of the earlier ones are, so it does the job. Looks like something Destro would carry, a little bit more scientific, a little bit more experimental, what with the company he runs and everything. And that of course has got the holster on him and some on-figure storage, and it slides in all just nice and lovely there. Like so. And the final accessory in the selection is Destro's little laser blaster thingamadoodad. As I mentioned in the unboxing, right at the top of the video, it's reminiscent to me of the Star Wars, the Stormtrooper rifles in Star Wars a little bit, which was probably intentional in the original design way back then. It's got plenty of detail on it. You know, you've got the sight here and bits and dials and triggers and what have you to give it some personality, some depth, some texture. It is a single piece of black molded plastic. The mainline version had a painted red section across the top there, whereas this is all just a single colour. I believe the intent, I'm guessing, was in homage to the single colour molded plastic of the original Destro figure that the retro card back is emulating. Same with the briefcase there as well. But it's a fine enough little weapon. No trigger guard on this gun as well, so it just slides nice and neatly in across the top there like that. And there you go. You've got your Destro all tooled up. So, yeah, it's a solid selection of accessories with the figure. I mean, it's not quite as expansive as we've seen with some of the other G.I. Joe classified figures, of course, where you've got like a bazillion things to accessorize your character with. But it does certainly add to the storytelling that you can do with your figure, however you want to play, display, or photograph. You know, it adds to the story. There is a couple of little notes I did want to add, though, mostly around this side here. So I feel like, I don't know if you can see there, the gun, without a swivel in the gauntlet here, the gun seems to sit a bit odd and awkward. I actually, even though I've been critical of the forward and back hinge, I kind of want one here because the up and down, it just doesn't sit quite the way I would want it to. So I can do a kind of sort of a bit of a spy, I don't know, but I've just noticed that there's kind of a bit of an awkward kind of way that it sits with the little laser blaster there, which was bothering me when I was trying to get him into some kind of posing positions earlier today. The other thing as well is that, largely speaking, G.I. Joe Classified have got places to store all your bits and bobs, but Destro doesn't. There's nowhere for this laser blaster to go. It doesn't fit inside the briefcase, for example. He does have a backpack peg on the back there, but I can't see anything to peg into it, so it's obviously just for kind of cross-purposing your backpacks from your other figures. So when the briefcase and the laser blaster are not in use, they're not stored on the figure, which is something I've kind of got in the habit of having with my G.I. Joe Classified. And now that may be because he's one of the earlier figures and it just wasn't kind of something they'd pinned down yet, but it's noticeable and is something that some may find interesting. However, all that said, I still think the accessory selection gets a thumbs up. Just possibly might light a wee bit more, maybe a knife or two or something, and maybe somewhere to store his laser gun. But there you go. And just for a bit of comparison, here is Destro next to some other G.I. Joe Classified series figures. First up, we've got the Baroness, my other retro carded figure in my collection. Never got around to reviewing this one. I don't know why, I just kind of recorded the unboxing and then never got around to doing the review. Maybe I'll squeeze it in sometime, but you can kind of see the height difference and how they look together. I think they colour coordinate very, very well. Well done, Destro and Baroness, for the colour coordination there. And here he is next to the mainline Cobra Commander, sporting a Valorverse Desert Eagle at the back there, but there you are. Take a look at that and cast your eyes over and get a sense of how they kind of fit together when it comes to a shelf display. You'll notice I've taken the foot stand off Destro as well, just to, I don't know, even up the height. The Cobra Commander would have insisted on it, let's be honest. And here we are then, folks. Here is Destro on the turntable now. This is the pose that I've had him in on my shelf alongside the Cobra Commander and Baroness. In my little headcanon, I'm telling a bit of a story there. I feel like Destro's made his way into a competitor's offices and raided some secret documents and stolen some files on USB sticks from their computers, stuffed them in his briefcase. He's on his way out the office and he's had to draw his pistol to fight his way through some law enforcement that's been brought to the office by the silent alarm. Or, you know, something like that. But overall, yeah, very happy with Destro. I do wonder, I might go and take a closer look at some of the pictures of the original first mainline release. I wonder if, because I'm so happy with this one, would I have been even happier with that first one? because I've never owned one, never had one in hand, it's hard for me to say, hard for me to comment on that. But I would appreciate if anyone does have a kind of point of comparison or owns both, if you drop in the comments down below and let me know kind of how they compare a little bit more side by side. I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, just a quick usual YouTube roundup there to say if you've enjoyed my review today, please do give me a thumbs up to say like. And remember, if you're not already subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button for more action figure, comic book, board game, and general collectible reviews here on MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I've been Chris, and I just want to say, really, thank you so very much for watching. Have a great day.